What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the collaboration album by Gucci Mane and V Nasty. Basically, this product is called BAYTL and it came out in the late fall of 2011. So the thing about this particular product is just the fact that V Nasty was kind of a hit member. If you don't know about V Nasty was kind of a particular hit member out of the White Girl Mob, which is part of Krayshawn's group back in like the early 2010s as far as those pitch going to happen. Krayshawn, Lil Debbie, and V Nasty as far as those pitch going to happen with it. Now, V Nasty went to prison like once or twice, a couple of times within that relative pitch. Maybe it was just once within that fair, but she wasn't around the particular time of like when Krayshawn. I mean, there were some here and there reasons as to why White Girl Mob never really dropped like a full blown album. That would have been some pretty excellent type fare to have gotten Krayshawn and Lil Debbie back in their prime, along with V Nasty, who really didn't drop a ton of products for this pitch going to happen. That's kind of the assortment, but that V Nasty found Gucci Mane within a sense as far as that particular kind of went. They did a surprise album, which continues to be the only album that V Nasty really did, but some excellent type of feel. This is an easy classic here, just would have to say. Gucci Mane was in prison around this time as well. He had gotten arrested a couple times in 2011, so he was in and out prison throughout the early 2010s. This is the prison sentence before the one in 2013 when he had his Twitter meltdown as far as this pitch kind of happened. But yeah, so I want to say Gucci Mane was in prison when this particular album came out, which maybe he wasn't because they were getting ready to shoot a music video, and around this time, this was like the day that they were going to shoot the music video was the day that Slim Duncan died. As far as this pitch going to happen, they were going to do it for the song Push Ups, but it was around. I want to say it was around this time that Gucci Mane went to prison, somewhere in like late 2011, something like that. But it was just within the appeal, a lot of frenetic typeness around that particular type of appeal. But some excellent type fare, more classic mixtape era type trap as far as this pitch going to happen. This album is mostly entirely produced by Zaytoven, and he throws in like a lot of excellent type productions on here, a lot of good type fare discs. Basically like a ground level type Gucci Mane, I'd have to say, just within the pitch. Not quite as, I'd say it's basically like an early 2010s update of like the Gucci Mane sound from like the mid 2000s, just with V Nasty thrown in like a more traditional kind of somewhat mixtape trap type format. But a lot of these productions, most of these, there's only really one production. I mean, this album's going to get a 10 out of 10, just go ahead and say it like that. There's really only one song out of these 12 I don't recommend, and that song is not produced by Zaytoven, so it's just the excellent appeal that he nails every production on here as far as those pitch can have, and just some real type fare. Thing about this project is just the fact that it kind of has like some kind of California Bay Area type sound a little bit in there. Not as full blown, but it is kind of a meld of like V Nasty style, which is also like her Lil Debbie, Krayshawn are from more California, the Bay Area type stuff like E40 and Too Short, some of those type folks. So it's just a good type ish, kind of get some of that type fare. This would be some good type fare to kind of see this happen more often because this was just this is around the times when there was like crowning. This is around the time when it was like real crowning type moments out of a lot of the stuff that came out of like the early 2010s. This is no exception. Now, I look after just being able to say that the unfortunate thing about this particular album is just the fact that a lot of critics kind of gave this album pretty bad score. Like some folks, like Consequence of Sound, gave it like a 0.5 out of 5. One place gave it a 1 out of 10. Double XL gave it an M out of like its standard rating. That's like the second worst rating. S is small is like the worst rating. They gave it a medium out of compared to like the sizes of double XL. But yeah, this is, I would definitely say, this is classic type of appeal. It just takes it, I would say, has a little bit of a learning curve, but it's just not within the pitch. It's just more traditional mixtape type format, just within an album type fare. You have to kind of already be with like the Gucci Mane kind of mixtape movement, the Brick Squad Monopoly, Brick Squad 1017, Brick Squad, White Girl Mob, some of those type pitches. Just know the embrace like the standard mixtape type stuff that was going on every day, late 2000s, early 2010s, some of that type fare is just within the pitch behind it. Has a lot of good gems on here. It just takes a little bit more tradition. If you only know about maybe 4 or 6 or 7 mixtapes out of like the early 2010s, you don't know folks like Joe Moses and YG Hootie and Papa Smurf and some of those type folks, Slim Duncan, and like folks like that, I'd have to say, routine kind of Waka Flocka projects, some of those type fares, just within particular Lil Debbie, Krayshawn, some of these type folks, just the stuff that they did around that time. It may take a little bit more, but it's just it has some commercial grabs on here. It doesn't as full bound try to do. I feel like this is kind of almost like a street album to something that would kind of be like a primer, where it is technically an album, but it's just within the pitch that it's really to the streets, and just kind of more something that this is kind of more of like standard commotion, just like an urban sense, more so than like the concept of aiming for like Billboard 100 and Grammy territories for those pitch can happen, but some excellent type appeal. Yeah, there were approximately 3 singles out this product, or at least 3 attempted singles. The first one is Whip Appeal. This is like a slizzard and kind of hungover day activity kind of get here. Is like this is definitely like some nice beleaguered fun, I would say, and just like a relative bustle still despite that. So it's just kind of the concept, despite having a little bit despite the fact of having a little bit of hungover drugs in your system, or just feeling a little bit hammered within the relative sense, still trying to get some stuff done and just have like this dinner commerce. At least that's the vibe of what I got from it within that particular pitch. Just feels like a more strung out type one, not strung out in terms of like not necessarily strung out, but just having a few more beers in your system or something like that. Just really burnt from like some torch ganja, some pitches like that. Just what I'd say within that tone. It's just kind of the concept of just having that leftover relay and realizing that you got to get some stuff done within that standard bustle. Definitely like the concept. There need to be way more songs like this. I just would have to say within that fair, just the real concept of just getting back up on your feet and having like that particular appeal of just the standard grind pitches like that. It's just excellent type one. And then Push-Ups was going to be the second single. Push-Ups was going to be the second single. This had Slim Duncan on here, but this is a song that was being made as he passed, which is a very unfortunate type aspect just in general, just for mixtape scene and rap in general. I'd have to say just within the tone behind it. But this basic song is like a standard kind of city antics that I'd say pretty similar to Whip Appeal, just not as hungover. Like some relative quick times I'd have to say, just get supplies, kind of situate for later hypeness, I'd have to say within that tone. So this one, I think this probably could have been a pretty good buzz single had this been meshed out and just had the situation behind it as far as being promoted the way that the way that things were originally intended before Slim Duncan passed. I look after this would have been some excellent type fare. Like once again, I'm going to continue to say I think Slim Duncan probably would have gotten like a pretty solid boost from this particular album and such. I think definitely, if I had to guess, I think Gucci Mane would have thrown him on a lot more projects just within the pitch behind it. I think he probably would have had an album out by the end of 2012 or early 2013 between Waka Flocka, him being on his second album, and just the stuff he would have done with the mixtape type fare. I think this would have easily given him like some good boosts and pitch like that. This would have been a blitz to have seen. But I look after this is some standard type fare just as the melding of what kind of happened. I kind of look after it like it's like a standard kind of midday, late day grind as far as those pitch kind of happen with it. I'd say about push ups. Some Duncan has pretty excellent verse on here. He really nails it just within the fare behind it. Gucci Mane does a great job. V Nasty does well. Just I'd say within the pitch behind it, some excellent type fare for some of that. Just like I was saying, just get supplies, kind of figure things out. Just kind of the concept of just like good relief after like a relative long day just within the fair. Just standard hop to it. Just I feel like goes pretty good with Whip Appeal. This kind of one where this one's a little bit more like this one's a little bit more ardent and bustled, I'd have to say, but both of which are some pretty good Traverse type ones kind of have for like that standard city push. That's some good type fare. And then the third single was Let's Get Faded. Now, this is a nice one. Really appreciate like the kind of thizzy and this overall Bay Area, but also kind of just like standard mixtape, just get tore up type fare about this one. So this is like a very much Let's Get Faded is like a very much stewing kind of great song for hella tore up times. I'd have to say here, just a super morose, great trippy sludge kind of have within that aspect. Do you like the overall appeal? Definitely glad for some of these type ones on here. Just easily kind of a boppish type one. Almost kind of feels like internet rap within a relative sense, but it has like that thiz type flavor, which I definitely enjoy. Has like some of that mixtape type flavor on top of that. Be Nasty really suits this particular song, just what I'd say within the appeal on it. This is like some trendy type stuff. I would have liked to have seen what more amalgam. I would have liked to have seen more styles that particularly came about this product. Because one thing about this product is just the fact that there was nothing really there was nothing really that spun off of this particular product. Like V Nasty really didn't collaborate with Gucci Mane or the rest of them much past this. I mean, the next time I really remember seeing V Nasty after this late 2011 album was just one appearance on Krayshawn's album. So she had like, I don't want to say she had her 15 minutes of fame, but it was just relatively brief. She dropped this project, promoted it for a little bit, late 2011, early 2012, and that was virtually it. It's just kind of the fair that this was some boisterous type stuff. Maybe it was just the reception of this project that got back to as far as saying that this was not the direction that like things were kind of wanting to happen. But I do think in a lot of easy fashions, this is an easy enough highlight to kind of appreciate your great song, get tore up to, and just appreciate some of that type fare. Gucci Mane suits this song as well. Good timeness to kind of get. So yeah, like I was saying, just within the appeal behind it, I mean, this kind of has like a bleepish. Let's Get Faded. This kind of has like a bleepish kind of thizzed out kind of this Bay Area like kind of late 2000s Bay Area type fare, something Mac Dre, Mr. Fab, some of those type folks. I'm surprised Mr. Fab was not on Let's Get Faded as opposed to Loaded, but just within the pitch, as is kind of the fare behind it. But I look after it. So yeah, every song on this particular album I recommend, minus the seventh song. Every song on this particular album I recommend, minus the song Out My Circle, which is produced by The Business. So this is just one the problem with this particular song was just trying to be like some house party type furore as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just felt like a more frenetic type one, just within the pitch of like some standard crazes. Normally, Zaytoven is pretty good with these sorts of songs. When you get like a song like Heavy from like the State versus Ray J Davis, something like that. I was trying to have like that relative kind of frenetic, just kind of really turned up in like a kind of this manic type sense, just in like a more house party type feel, just in a more house party type fare, but just didn't pull out the vibe nearly as well as I would have wanted it as far as those pitch can happen. This was kind of, I don't know why they had this lone production on here that wasn't produced by Zaytoven, but just the aspect behind it. I like the concept. I probably could listen to the song just hearing it amongst the out and about, but I just don't know the commerce of how often I would return to this song on my own. Just, like atmosphere behind it. Just, I mean, it's a solid enough song. This album is going to get a 10 out of 10, but it's just one, or just the freneticness. I feel like it probably need a little bit more edge to it, like a song like Heavy or one of those type ones, or a little bit more like Food Plug, or just like probably say some of those type of ones like Hate Me Some More, some of those type pitches, just ones that nail that particular vibe a little bit better. But that's just within the pitch. So, but at least attempts it, but it's just kind of within the concept. This album still gets a 10 out of 10. So talk about some of these on here. Like another one that aims for like some commercial spotlighting here would be Millions Every Month. It's like a hop to it, kind of good mixtape hustle song with like some commercial grab about it. I would definitely say, and it's like a nice motivate to kind of get here. So it's just basically be nasty on the sort of song of just like that standard mixtape bustle, some of that type fare like Meek Mill's Dream Chasers and some of those type folks, that standard typical just get towards it like a good either late day embrace, evening embrace, is some of that typical kind of frolic, just make some money pitches like that, I'd have to say. Good, nice one. Food Plug is a pretty good highlight, as well as like a brooding kind of trap turn up, I would definitely say here. Just getting towards like the grind, I would feel like just some standard night work, I would definitely have to say here. Just a glittery kind of hitter. This has one of the more immediate type productions on here in terms of that standard fare. It's just kind of one, this kind of the aspect. I mean, there are some ones like this is a relatively like bustle type product. I mean, in terms of songs like Let's Get Faded and Whip Appeal, some of those type ones are just a little bit more within the pitch of just being a little bit addled. I'd probably say at least one other one that's probably like some of that trippiness would be Fuck You, I'd have to say. But apart from those particular ones, I'd say there's actually some ones on here like, I feel like Whip Appeal at least has some bustle about it, despite that it is kind of like a good loaded song as well. I feel like let's say Food Plug is definitely a hustle song. I feel like Millions Every Month is definitely a hustle song. There's like Hate Me Some More, it's a hustle song. I'd say there's some ones like that I'd have to say within the particular type tone. I'd say low, and another song that's basically like Heavy that works out better than Out My Circle would be Loaded, I'd have to say. But we'll go ahead and get to some of these. But yeah, Food Plug definitely has a brooding type one, just some of that commerce of this. The standard work shift just within a more night type fare. If you do have stuff to do past like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock p.m. when the sun's setting, I'd have to say. Loaded reminds me of like early 2010s Migos trap turn up, I would have to say there. Just a local kind of go ham for like a few nights, I would definitely have to say here. Just some Liddy and join and get within that. So this one, just Loaded, definitely reminds me of just like, I want to say like, I forget the song, but it's like Hannah Montana, something like that. One of those type songs by Migos from 2013 just has that real similar type fare, typical kind of Zaytoven type turn up, local house party type craze just within that pitch, some of that standard this stuff that was getting ready to happen throughout 2013. I do feel like this is, in minor senses, this particular album is kind of like a primer for what was getting ready to happen with 2010's trap, the more Instagram and Travis Scott era, future era, as far as those pitches kind of happen. This is kind of like some in between type fare, just setting off the trends as far as getting towards that. It's just kind of the aspect that this was just the cornerstone as to getting towards it within the pitch behind this, the early type stages that this kind of happened. I need to listen to more Gucci Mane mixtapes from what I remember, but when I think about Return to Mr. Zone 6 from early 2011, that didn't have this particular vibe, but this thing started to amalgamate within the fall of like 2011 that started having those pitches. Future was popping, some of those type folks, Yo Gotti, folks like that were kind of starting to melt that particular sound. It's just starting to happen, but that's a nice one that kind of is like a primer for like 2013, 2014 type stuff is Loaded. Hate Me Some More is kind of like that as well. It's like a hypnotic kind of Zaytoven beat, I'd definitely say here. Just some evening slog, typical kind of grind, I would feel like within that fare. Just another hustle type song within a sense. Just some extra time to kind of smoke a few, I'd had to say within that. Yeah, just almost like a ruminate type song I'd have to say about Hate Me Some More. Just once again, like I was saying, just some extra time just within the pitch. And just not quite as bustle as some of these type ones on here like Food Plug or Loaded, some type ones, but this within the pitch of just kind of just being on the standard hop to it, just being on like the typical kind of grind just within the fair, just having some smoke is just amongst that, just get some goodies, some of that type fair, I'd have to say. Fuck You is a pretty nice one. Do you like the appeal behind this? It's another highlighted one that has Slim Duncan on there. I'd have to say, good type tone for that. It's like definitely like a feeling keyed kind of fun song to kind of have here. Typical kind of late day traffic. I'd have to suppose about that. This tracks I'd feel like either on foot or just in a whip as far as those pitch kind of have with it. Just grab some Taco Bell, smoke, Snicker, some of those type tones. Yes, if you're having the concept of just watching like a quick movie, just getting some laughs up, then heading out, just some pitches like that, just some of that standard kind of day antics and or late day standard kind of late day antics and traffic as far as those pitch kind of have with it. Just a good concept, get some goodies, and just be kind of relatively buzzed or keyed as hell as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just get tore up a bit while just getting some stuff done. So it's just within the pitch. It's kind of a trippy type one, but also within the sense of still having some relative shit to do as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just would have to say. Fill My Shoes is a quality one. Now, this is like a woozy kind of night activity, just after work shift relief to kind of get here. Just a good primer for some night craze. I'd say a good song to get supplies to. This kind of feels like an OJ the Juice Man song, just within the pitch behind it. Just typical kind of Zaytoven type fare, just with the embrace behind it. Another stock one that just kind of feels pretty similar to like Hate Me Some More, some type pitches. Not quite as crazy as Loaded or Food Plug, but just within the pitch of having that relative type appeal as far as that kind of goes along with it. Just kind of it's another just a good relief of one. Do like the concept of just having some of that type fare, just kind of figuring out once again, probably like some extra time just within the pitch behind it, just standard. Go pick up some lighters, some swishers, some of that good type stuff. Just be able to get some of that. Just pick up, like, get some checks mix, figure out what's going to happen across like the next several hours as far as that particular one goes. Kind of exciting, but kind of within the pitch of like a relatively melded song. This is like a breather as far as those pitch can happen, but just some good times. Then Six Swag is another highlighted one. It's just within that pitch as well. It's like a trippy kind of routine evening embrace. I'd have to say here, just a flip mode song. I would definitely feel like Six Swag is just a flip mode type song. If you just got done with the work shift, standard errands and responsibilities taken care of, is just an excellent concept to be in a whip and just be like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna get crunk now. Figure out what's gonna happen. It's kind of demon time. Also, I'd say just woke up at like 8 p.m. Some of that type of standard fare, just some outings, heading out to the nightclub, figuring out what's gonna happen. Go hit up some bells as far as those pitch kind of happen within the tone behind it. It's excellent type fare just within the concept as far as that would kind of go along. Just kind of a good pitch. This one is a little bit more centered type version of Whip Appeal. I do feel like there's like some mild amount of makeshift on here. I feel like songs like Push Ups, Whip Appeal, and Six Swag at least have like that standard traffic embrace, just like the concepts of this, whether it's just a hungover kind of got done with responsibilities, like a bustle kind of got done, whether like a bustle kind of got done with responsibilities, or just like a standard kind of night commerce, just in a more plain type mode, a just regular type mood of just got done with responsibilities. So within a regular type mode of just got done with responsibilities, there are some good concepts within those pitches being able to do that. So yeah, this is relatively, I don't want to say this is a straightforward type project, but it definitely has the concept of just being centered enough to not be like having problems with, the standard getting stuff done and pitches like that, just bills paid or getting tasks taken care of. It's not a lazy type project just doing the pitch. I mean, it gets tore up within the pitch, even amongst that, you're still getting stuff done, just having the standard fare, just being able to, be productive as far as this pitch can have. So it's a good type fare to be able to have that just within the pitch. I mean, it's good to kind of have that relative bustle, just being able to nail within those pitches. I'd have to say, but just within that tone. So yeah, this album gets a 10 out of 10. The social score I would probably give probably like a 9.5 out of 10. I feel like the excellence behind this product is definitely there. I mean, I feel like it has enough poundiness just to be able to have it, but I just question like the concept just because of the reception of this product. Slim Duncan has some great verses on here. Mr. Fab's on here, if folks didn't commonly know. It's not as much on full blown display, but it is dope that he's on here. Cat named Burner's on here, and a cat named P2 the LA is on here just within those pictures. So there's some extra type fare on here, some of that type fare. A lot of great Zaytoven pieces within that pitch. Gucci Mane and Zaytoven are classic knockouts for those pitch kind of happen. He gives a lot of good production. Some of that's just like primers for mid 2010s trap that was going to pop off later in like the Instagram days. Some good fares for that. Some good makeshift type songs gonna have for some of that. Some good get thizzed out type songs. Get trippy with like some chicas to standard fare as far as those pitch kind of happen with it. And even like some bustle kind of trap songs and hustlers makeshift within the sense of just relative worship grind just in like a night commerce. So it has that in particular. It's just kind of the concept that this album just kind of got dogpiled on in terms of like the reception it got. A lot of people hated on this particular product, whether they just didn't like V Nasty's lyrics or just the concept of the Gucci Mane feeling like both these folks are not as quality lyricists or whatever. Just the concept of, on top of that, just the fact that the singles didn't chart and it didn't have much commercial grabs as far as those pitch kind of happen, at least the acceptance of commercial just within the tone. So it's just within the fair. So 9.5. In terms of future, unfortunate thing is V Nasty has not really put out a project I mean, she's put out mixtapes in like the early 2010s, but she kind of dissipated. That's the sad thing about it. Gucci Mane has continued to put out plenty of projects, but this is like a surprise hit project that just really nailed it here. Just a good concept of probably some things that were just within the meldness behind it. Definitely a signature type one, just be able to say one of the more notable early 2010s rap albums and like a mixtape type fare that definitely nails it on like the street appeal. Kind of underrated nowadays. I would definitely feel like this within the tone behind it and is easy enough to recommend.